We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Monday. I'm recording this on Sunday night. I'm back in Savannah, as you can see, my normal backdrop in Savannah. I'm in the complex clubhouse. I'm not in my condo. I don't have this many books in my condo. I don't have anywhere close to this many books. But anyway, it looks impressive. It looks like I have a tendency to read. I'm more apt to listen to an audiobook than I am to read these days. But, there was a time in my life I read a bit. I read a lot today in the news and all this stuff just to try to keep up with what's going on. But it's just going to be me today. We've got emails to check in on. I want to thank Will for joining me yesterday. It's always good to get his input about what's going on. Will gets pretty passionate about things. So he's a good guy to have on the show. Got some other folks coming up. Looks like Abe may be on. Jace will be on. Of course, Old Soul, and hopefully Ed will be on again later in the week. So we've got all kinds of stuff planned for you. We've got stuff to talk about today. We're coming out of the weekend, and there isn't typically as much stuff going on during the weekends that there is during the week, but we had some shit. I wanted to bring something up because I heard it all over TikTok. And TikTok is all a buzz, and a lot of other not media outlets, social media outlets are talking about this crash in Washington, D.C., and how people saw this craft scorching across the sky. I don't even know what that is all about. I've tried to look into it, I've tried to research it. The only place I can find any information about it is less than ethical sources, YouTube channels, that sort of thing, Reddit. And I'm not saying Reddit is not trustworthy, but not all the people on Reddit are trustworthy. So I don't know what's that about. If you know, send it to me. But everybody's got this story how hundreds and thousands of people saw it and heard it, but nobody knows what happens. And it doesn't show up in the mainstream media anywhere. So I'm thinking it maybe is along the lines of those giant monsters in the in the mall that one time. Funny, that never came to fruition either. And people are saying, well, they're just trying to hide it from you. How do you fucking hide that? Really? How do you hide that? You don't hide it. It sounds a little goofy. Somebody starts it off and it just gets a life of its own and takes off. I could be wrong about this crash thing, but if it's as big a deal as everybody said and I can't find it anywhere in the news, you got to kind of question it, don't you think? Anyway, we do have some emails, so let's get to them. We're going to have a bunch of guests coming up, so we want to stay ahead of the game here. Hello, Mike. Welcome back to Savannah area, and thanks for bringing the cooler weather with you. Apparently, anyone can challenge any individual voting qualifications in Georgia. Richmond Hill in Bryan County, right outside Savannah, a previous red area, had one person challenge 859 voters. Hearing was scheduled today. Jennifer Hilburn was the person listed as challenging the voter registrations. I have no idea who that is. Who that is. She did not appear for the hearing, so all 859 challenges were thrown out, and these 859 voters' rights were restored. Yeah, you see, that's the thing about Trump-a-fucks. It's all about making noise and trying to make headlines, but they have no follow-through. They have no substance. She was likely going to have to prove that they should be thrown out, and she had no proof. She was big on making the noise, but she couldn't follow it through. Big surprise when we're talking about Trump-a-fucks. Now, the emailer goes on, hopefully the country will seek financial cost and file criminal charges against her. That should go without question. That's what they should do. This is just one instance of attempts to interfere with our elections. I'm afraid we are in for a lot more. We are lucky in Georgia to have Brad Raffensperger, Secretary of State, and Brian Kemp, both Republicans, who have the courage to stand up to put the people's wishes over the political affiliations. Sam. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Sam. And we were talking to Will yesterday, who lives in Georgia, not in Atlanta, but in an outlying area around Atlanta. And he says there's a lot of lawsuits and a lot of pushback going against some of the goofy shit that they were planning to do. So, again, maybe much of this is just noise, trying to impress Donald Trump or whatever the fuck they're doing. But when it comes down to it, the law is the law, and they can try to do some of these things. But if it's unconstitutional or against the law, it's just not going to happen. No judge is going to allow them to do that. All right. Next up, Trump's Bible includes the U.S. Constitution, but many parts of the Bill of Rights and amendments are missing, especially the ones that guarantee individual rights and abolishing slavery. Interesting. He also left out the parts about the president serving only 2 terms. These Bibles are being purchased by the state of Oklahoma for placement in all public schools. These students will not learn the real Constitution, but rather the Trump version. Just another way he plans to brainwash the youth of today to become MAGA tomorrow. Other issue is, why is Oklahoma putting Bibles in these schools anyway? Because you got a goofy fucking Trumplefucker, and you're letting him get away with it. That's why. Once Trump loses in November, the fight against MAGA may go on for years. Thank goodness we'll have the rational boomer to be leading the fight. Thanks for your daily dose of sanity, the oldest boomer, Gary. Well, thank you. It won't be me leading the fight. It'll be Kamala Harris, and she will be kicking ass and taking names. Yeah, it's getting tiresome. And I warned you of this too, that um, as we get closer to the election and it becomes more apparent that Donald Trump doesn't have a fucking prayer in hell, things are going to get crazier. Things are just really getting goofy. Donald Trump is going off the ledge here. And we're going to talk about some of that in this show. Um, it's we're going to hear some crazy shit, and none of it's going to have any substance to it. We will likely hear claims about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and anything they can do to discredit these two. And as I've said before, that's really their only strategy. They have no policy, they have no planks in their platform, they have nothing. All they can do is say, well, they're worse than me. Well, Donnie, unfortunately, we've all come to discover that nobody is worse than you, you piece of shit. Thank you, Gary. I appreciate that. Hello, Boomer. Long time no email. Just dropping a line to confirm what Corrine emailed in regards to the TikToks made into a not a podcast. I have the same issue. Most of the time, I can figure out what you're going to say in the last second, but sometimes not. I also figure you're getting inundated with these types of emails, but since there's only one, now you have two and probably now 1 million. No, I don't have 1 million. It helps the platform. I used to listen to your podcast as merely Apple Podcast. As always, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for being there every day. Can't wait until the Cheeto humping fuck nugget gets smoked by a brown woman. The dad, not as cool as his daughter, Dave. Oh, I remember Dave. Dave, I think, lives in Minnesota. Early on when I was doing the podcast, I had occasion to meet Dave and his daughter. And Dave is definitely not cooler than his daughter. His daughter is far cooler. But don't feel bad, Dave, because I have a 4-year-old granddaughter who's way cooler than I am. So, that's just our lot in life. As far as the not a podcast stuff getting cut off, I tried listening to it myself too. I did hear one thing, and what my question is it after each segment that you're hearing something cut off or just at the end? Because when I listened to it, I did hear how it cut off kind of quickly at the end of the last segment. And it cut off like half a word is what it did. I'm not sure why it would do that. I'm looking into it, trying to figure it out. But fuck, man, I'm a 64-year-old guy and I'm lazy on top of it. So I'll do the best I can. All right, next one comes from John. He says, I've been enjoying your podcast since you started on TikTok and look forward to it every night. I have learned so much from you and your guests, especially Old Soul. Keep up the hard work, John. Thank you very much. I wouldn't go as far as saying I'm doing a lot of hard work. A lot of this is second nature for me. A lot of it has to do with how I'm feeling, and it is cathartic to a certain extent to get this stuff off my chest and actually know that people are listening. It's not like I'm an old guy screaming on the street about whatever. It's nice to know that there are people listening, and I appreciate it immensely. Um, And I think sometimes when you have a movement or a cause, somebody's got to make noise. Somebody's got to be loud about it. And thankfully, there are a number of people on TikTok and in the podcast that are doing the same things I'm doing. And that's the point. The Republicans have always kind of carried the narrative and drowned the Democrats out. My goal was to at least speak my piece and hopefully take my place in the narrative. And then when things started to snowball, I thought, well, maybe we can drown the motherfuckers out. And I think we're getting to that point because the Republicans are at a stage where it's just absolutely ridiculous, the things they're saying and doing. So it isn't hard to bury them in their bullshit. But we're going to keep doing it. You know, people keep asking me, what are you going to do after November 5th? Fuck, man, we got a lot of shit to do after that. There's going to be three Donald Trump trials. There's going to be sitting members of Congress that'll be going through some shit. The Democrats are going to have to work their asses off to dig out of it. And honestly, I've said this before, I'll say it again. I really want to address the media and the disservice they do to this country. A lot of what we've gone through since Donald Trump has become president has been inflicted on us by the media. Media does whatever the fuck they want. We talk about polls a lot. People say the polls are so tight. And I say, don't listen to the polls because they're notoriously wrong. But I was watching Arlene Unfiltered, and she gave a perfect example of some polls that came out about Latino um, voters and how um, in the article that was written, they were saying, well, Kamala's losing ground on Latino voters. And the way they describe it, it makes it sound like it's desperate. It's a terrible situation, and Donald Trump's going to win all the Latino votes. And that's not at all what it was. I mean, I think for Biden, it was like 62 to 33 or 35, 62 to 32. And now with Kamala, it's about 58 to 35. Yeah, she may have lost some ground on what Biden had, but it's still a big chasm between who's voting for Donald Trump and who's voting for Kamala Harris. Is not really a story. There might be a little difference in percentage between Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, but it's still a big win for the Democrats. See what they do? They hype this up, they exaggerate it a little bit, get you all worked up, and you're upset, and then you come to me and go, "Oh my God, what's fucking happening?" What's fucking happening is the pollsters and the media are fucking playing you. They are playing you. And as I've said, once this is all said and done, if we are correct and Kamala wins in a big way, the question really needs to be asked. Why has the media been spending 2 years up until the date of the election telling us it's a close one? And if it doesn't end up being close, how did you fuck that up? You got all the money in the world, you got all the resources, you're on every day, and you missed it. How is that possible? Now, some people might say, well, that's because they're incompetent. I don't think it's because they're incompetent. I think they're playing a game. I think they're being manipulative. I think they're trying to fire everybody up and scare people so they keep getting big listeners. They're always looking for some big news to cause people to race to the television sets and watch what they're doing. They'll take the smallest thing and turn it into something fucking huge. That's just what they do. And that's the main reason we don't have journalism anymore. It's not about journalism. It's all tabloid. It's all trying to get as many viewers as you can get with some clickbait or the equivalent of clickbait on television. It's tiresome. And this country needs true journalists. And I think a lot of people are going to look at what's going on in mainstream media, especially after this election, and say, what the fuck? They've been fucking with us. They've been manipulating us. And this is why more and more people are coming to the internet, you know, the likes of Midas Touch or some of us on TikTok or in the podcast and such. They got to go someplace to get the truth. And unfortunately, you can't get it from the mainstream media. All right. Next one comes from Rhonda. She says, "Hi, Mike. Just emailed about the question of can a former president run for governor of a state? It looks like there's nothing in the Constitution to prohibit that. Maybe Donald Trump will run for governor of Florida. What a disgusting idea. But I wouldn't put anything past that piece of shit. Would Floridians be that stupid? Thanks, Boomer, for all you do, Rhonda." Well, I'll be honest with you. Since both are statewide elections, if he doesn't win the electoral votes from Florida, there's no way he's going to win the governorship. I mean, these people already hate Ron DeSantis, and Ron DeSantis is just a Trump mini-me. What Florida is going through now with the hurricanes and insurance and the lack of workers for certain jobs and the problems with immigration, if by some chance, um, if by some chance Kamala wins the electoral votes, when Ron DeSantis is up for re-election, I'll guarantee it. Well, he's done because he can't run again, but it may be a while before they get another Republican in there. What the Republicans have done to that state, a beautiful state, have turned it into, and I don't mean this as a commentary on the whole state and all the people in it, but they've taken a beautiful state, a great place where everybody went for tourism, and turned it into a shithole in many ways. It's still beautiful, but the shit you have to go through just to be down there. I mean, I have people that have homes down there that I know, and every year they got to go through the hurricane season, which is bad enough, and then because of the hurricane season, they can't get insurance, or it's just prohibitively expensive. So they make it a tough place to live, and it doesn't have to be that way. It hadn't been that way for decades up until the MAGA fucks started taking control. So I think we're going to see some dramatic changes in Florida. I mean, they have to change, otherwise they won't survive. I heard somebody talking about, some of the coast towns in Florida and southern Florida, especially, where you get hurricane after hurricane after hurricane, and people have to build and rebuild and rebuild. And this person suggested that if this continues on, there's going to come a point where people will just say, "What's the point?" This climate change thing is causing all kinds of problems. I build a house, they tear it down with a hurricane, and I keep going back and forth. Eventually, it's not worth the effort. So you might get whole towns in southern Florida or on the coast of Florida that just won't rebuild because it doesn't make any financial sense. I hope we don't get to that point. I hope we don't. But that's why we need Kamala in. We need to address the climate change issue, and we need to get some sanity back in the state of Florida. All right, the next one says, "Hi, Mike. Just saw this guy on TikTok, hype our village vigilance, and thought he would be a great guest on your podcast. I'm somewhat familiar with him. Have a great day, Gabrielle." I'm somewhat familiar with him. I do not know him. I don't even know how I'd reach out to him. I mean, you could DM him, but I don't have a lot of luck with people DMing me back. Sometimes I think that, I'll go somebody who's got a similar amount of followers and just say, "Hey, I got this podcast. You want to come on?" I've done it a few times, and most every time, with some exceptions, doesn't happen. I reached out to Arlene. She came on. She'll be back on at some point. Abe from California, he came on. But other than that, I don't have a lot of success with some of the other creators about coming on the program. I mean, I'll take a look at it. I'll give it a shot, but we'll see. And I'm happy to have him on. If any of you know him and say, "Do you want to be on Mike's show?" He's ready to have you on the show. Let him know. But um, for whatever reason, I don't get a lot of response from DMs. Okay, here's the one I've been looking forward to. I only scanned it briefly. Boomer, you and some of your guests need to quit talking about polls, capital letters. Enough already. This is a beaten dead horse. You've spoken about it, and now instead of talking about positive stuff that Kamala wants to bring to the table, you're wasting too much time on polls. Why not talk about disinformation that Musk is peddling on FEMA? Why hasn't the richest motherfucker donated to the hurricane relief instead of charging these victims for this Starlink internet? On Taylor Swift donating $5 million to hurricane funds. Open up on the positive for Kamala so it will remain fresh on people's minds. Those are the things we need to hear continuously because we now have short attention spans, unfortunately. Denise. First thing I'll tell you, Denise, is the same thing I've told everybody all the time. My motherfucking show will do what the fuck we want on my motherfucking show. Now, I understand your point, but it's not suggesting that we don't talk about Kamala in a positive way. We're big supporters of Kamala, but you have to understand, Denise, the reason I talk about polls is because every day, all day, I get people terrified by the polls. I want to rest some minds easy regarding the polls. That needs to be addressed. The polls play a big part in this election. These polls can't be trusted. They're not typically right, and they keep coming at us. They keep coming at us in the media. The media knows they're not accurate, but yet that's the only thing they turn to when it comes to their reporting. So this terrifies people. And above all else, Denise, I want to keep people confident and understanding what's going on with the polls. We do talk about positive things with Kamala. Um, and we do talk about polls. And we'll continue to talk about polls until November 5th because people need to be fucking calmed down. If you got my DMs and my emails from people who are terrified, absolutely terrified, only because of the polls, and then false reporting of the polls or manipulation of the polls, these people are terrified. We know what Kamala can do. All you have to do is listen to her. And we talk about those things that she suggests. But if you're looking for some place where we're only going to tell happy news, that's not the place. This is not the place. And it's not because I like telling bad news. What I like to do is talk about this news that everybody else is getting from every place else and give it some perspective so people don't have to be fucking terrified every time they turn on the news or read something on the internet. I appreciate the comment, Denise. I'll give it some consideration when it comes to talking more about Kamala, but people are terrified and we've got to make them feel better. We got 3 weeks to get through this motherfucker, then we can put it behind us. We'll have other problems to contend with. All right, the next one. Hey Mike, so I collect math books and we just got a new one. Much Ado About Numbers. Shakespeare's Mathematical Life and Times. Early on in the book, it talks about huge numbers and the most tangible sense of huge numbers in Shakespeare's time would have been witnessing crowds of people. The biggest crowd gatherings would probably have been for the gruesome spectacle of public hearings. Now, see, I'm not educated to know if this guy or this person is being sarcastic or it's real. Is there really a book like that? I don't think there's a book like that, but I don't fucking know. I never read Shakespeare. My sons have read Shakespeare. They laugh at me for not reading. I mean, I've read some Shakespeare, but I'm no aficionado. There were no official tasks with counting the number in the crowd, but there are credible claims that several thousands would have turned up to watch the hanging of notorious convicts such as Sir Brian O'Rourke of Ireland. On a Wednesday in 1591, he was found guilty of treason, and in front of a large crowd, he suffered the routine punishment of the age. First, he was hanged, and then, while still alive, cut open to have his bowels removed and thrown in the fire before being beheaded and having his body cut into quarters. Uh, Sounds a little excessive, doesn't it? I think I can think of an orange piece of scum that could suffer or should suffer a similar fate for all the crimes he's committed. Can you imagine? It would be a crowd like no one's ever seen before. to witness the quartering of the piece of shit. LOL. There probably isn't any chance of that happening, but hopefully at least he'll be in prison soon. Nick. Well, Nick, I have a feeling I'm too dumb to know if you're being funny or if you're being serious about that book. But here's the thing about Donald Trump. I wish no ill to Donald Trump. I hope he lives a long and healthy life because that life is going to suck. Jail, embarrassment, made to be a pariah, people walking away from him. He'll have nobody around him, including his family. I'd rather see him suffer and be accountable for the things he's accomplished as opposed to letting him off easy. That's just me. All right. Next one says, Hi, Mike. I listen to your podcast every day and I enjoy hearing your point of view. I also have a neighbor who follows politics very closely. I just wanted your take on what he said. I'm trying to stay positive that Kamala is going to win the election, but I do agree with what he said about Trump cheating. Sometimes I get frustrated with my neighbor because I don't know if he's just being hard on Kamala, but I know him well and he's a very smart guy. Okay. From my neighbor. Kamala is great at fundraising, but it's not helping. Really? She fundraised $1 billion in 80 days. She's all over in terms of ads and campaign rallies, and Donald Trump's not. In the swing states, Trump is winning on most major issues, the economy, Israel, and Ukraine, and it's not even close. Categorically, bullshit. Where are you getting that from the polls? I haven't even seen polls that suggest that. That's not the case at all. In fact, I've heard that in terms of the economy, Kamala has pulled ahead. And maybe that's because Donald Trump had this brilliant idea of tariffs. No, I think that's bullshit. She needs to be decisive. She needs to be decisive, answer questions directly, and go on Fox, Hugh Hewitt, and other right-wing media. She's running scared and playing not to lose. As of today, she'd lose. Let me tell you something about your neighbor. That is a full out Trumplefuck trying to play games with you. Hugh Hewitt? That fucker isn't even legitimate. And Joe Rogan? Why would you go on Joe Rogan, for God's sake? Joe Rogan is a self described dumbass, and I agree with him completely. Yes, he has a big audience, but so does Call Her Daddy. And it has a specific audience. This idea that Kamala Harris isn't answering questions, she's been on a fucking media blitz. It's just all Trumplefuck bullshit. It's rhetoric. Now, either this person is a Trumplefuck or buys in to the narrative from the Trumplefucks. And there are some Democrats that do that. They hear something on the news, then they DM me and they say, I heard this. Is this a problem? No, bitch. It's something the Republicans said, and you're buying into it. You're fucking not helping here. Your buddy, Trumplefuck, I guarantee you. And I tell you what, if it, if the guy likes to debate, connect him up with me. We'll have him on the show. Maybe he can teach me a lesson or two. But I guarantee you, once he gets done on this show, he won't do it. But once he gets done on this show, fucker won't be talking much anymore. Because there's questions to be asked of people that support Trump or that are even scared of Trump. There's a lot of shit they don't know, they don't understand. And those questions need to be asked. And so often the case that they don't get asked those questions. Now, he goes on to say she made two major mistakes the last couple of days. Wasted time picking a fight with Ron DeSantis during a hurricane. That's she's sending $157 million to Lebanon is bad timing. She's not sending it. Joe Biden is. But did you understand? Did you hear what happened yesterday? They're saying that they're not sending any money to the hurricane folks. Well, Joe Biden announced he's sending $600 million to those people involved in those hurricanes. So nice fucking try. 99.9% of the Americans could care less about Lebanon. 50% never heard of it. This is a hardcore fucking Republican. You know what? When you see your neighbor, tell him to fuck off from me. I'm extremely worried, and we know Trump will cheat. Besides the convention and debate, he's done a terrible job, probably worse than any possible candidate. From me. Please help steer my brain in a positive direction from what my neighbor said. I value your opinion. I definitely don't agree with him regarding Kamala doing a terrible job with the convention and the debate. By the way, I wanted to say that even though I listen to a lot of your TikToks, I really love the podcast that you do where you compile all of them. Great idea by a listener. Yeah, it was a great idea. Very easy to do, it turns out. Best, Karen. Karen, your neighbor's a Trumplafuck. I guarantee you he's a Trumplafuck. I get this all the time. They will come to me. Now, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but Kamala's really bad. This is somebody trying to be sneaky or clever or something like that. This is really an easy question. Kamala or Donald Trump? Kamala made a big mistake about sending money to Lebanon, even though she didn't. That's Joe Biden. She made a big mistake. You notice the guy doesn't mention 34 felony convictions, found liable of sexual assault, telling Detroiters in Detroit that their town is shitty, going to blue states and talking. It's not even comparable. Kamala's made mistakes. She raised 80 in 80 days, $1 billion fucking dollars. You can talk about support with polls and all this shit. But if she collected $1 billion in 80 days, that suggests to me she's got a lot of support. So much support, people are going into their pockets and giving her their money. Fuck the polls. Fuck your neighbor. Fuck all these Trumple-fucks that constantly come to me and say, well, I'm not a Trump fan, but Kamala's horrible. Fuck you. You are a Trump fan. You're a piece of shit and you're stupid. You tell me this guy's a smart guy. If he follows Donald Trump, he's not a smart guy. Otherwise, he's just gullible and ignorant of what's truly going around. This guy is ill-informed and he's trying to talk like he knows what the fuck he's talking about. Again, Karen, from me, you can tell this guy to fuck off. And if he wants to talk about it, here I am. We'd be happy to talk to him. And I guarantee you when he gets done, he's not going to have a fucking good day. I guarantee you that. All right. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. We're moving through some emails. We got some other news stories and such. And by the way, Karen, the previous emailer who was talking about her neighbor, um, if you get a chance, send me another email and remind me of your neighbor because on November 6th, I want to do a video for you that you can play for him, and it's going to be me laughing in his fucking face. Just say. I'm not trying to start trouble with your neighbors. Better off to avoid trouble. But people like that annoy me. They think they're clever, and it's fucking insulting. All right. Catch a breath. Next up, hi Mike. I was watching Arlene Unfiltered on TikTok. Great lady. She's been on the show. She does a great service. Check her out on TikTok, Arlene Unfiltered. She was saying that Donald Trump seems like he's lost interest in winning by the way he's behaving going to California, New York, and Colorado. I was thinking, oh my God, what does this mean? Does that mean he'll run for governor or senator after this in some deeply red state and try to be the king, or like a state like Alabama or South Carolina or any other public office in a red state where he would probably vote this freak in? He would also claim that he's running for office somewhere and he can't be touched by the Justice Department because he's a candidate. Doesn't work that way with state level stuff. Is that a possibility? Do you think this is far-fetched? Um, Thanks for counting down the days to November 5th. Go Blue, Rhonda. I don't know that Donald Trump has lost interest in winning. I think he and his campaign have come to the realization that they aren't going to win. So now instead, what they're trying to do is go to places like California, like New York, where they can presumably pull a decent sized crowd. So they can say, see how popular I am? I think Donald Trump at this point is trying to create an argument as to how he really won the 2024 election after he gets his ass kicked. And the bigger margin he gets beat by, the harder it's going to make that complaint. And the complaint can't be made anyway. I think Donald Trump understands this is how narcissists think. They're thinking ahead a lot. And when they realize a problem might be ahead, they start looking for excuses. And that's pretty much what he's doing. It was funny. He went to Coachella a couple days ago, Coachella, California. He had no chance of winning California. And apparently he got a big crowd out there because there's a lot of people out there. But Donald Trump, of course, fucked that up too. All the people that showed up, I'm willing to bet many of them are not going to vote for him now. Apparently, in Coachella, um, the parking lot was about 4 or 5 miles from the event. So when they came into the parking lot, there were buses. They loaded them on the buses, brought them to the event, and these goofy fucking Trumplafucks cheered and went crazy and all of that shit. But when they left, when it was done, no buses. Maybe a couple here and there, but they had hundreds of people there. And these people had to get back to their cars 4, 4.5, 5 miles away. 2 hour walk if they had to walk. And I saw some videos of people just upset as hell. And I guess anybody would be upset whether your Lord and Savior just spoke to you or not. They pull you away 4.5 miles and then they set you free and give you no way to get back. This may be Donald Trump's way of um, stopping people from leaving early. I don't know. But Donald Trump is very single-minded in the sense that he only wants what he wants, and then after that, you're shit to him. Once you've come to the event and he shows how much he can draw, then he doesn't give a fuck about you. And he proved that in Coachella. He absolutely proved that. So um, people always ask me that. Is he going to run for governor? No, he's not going to run for governor someplace or senator. This motherfucker's not healthy as we look at him right now, and he's not going to be in a position to run for anything. Not to mention he could be in jail or just in court every other day. He's not going to be in a position to run for anything after this is done. He's going to be absolutely embarrassed. And besides that, Donald Trump, being a narcissist, he isn't going to go from being a president to a governor. Just not going to do that. And nobody's going to elect him as a governor. And if they did, they deserve what the fuck they get. But no, I don't think he's. See, this is the one thing that Republicans and a lot of Democrats have a problem with. They think Donald Trump is this smart guy that's got some great strategies. That's not what's happening here. He's reacting. It's all emotional with Donald Trump. He's not thinking about what he's doing. He's just doing whatever he thinks works at the moment. And now he's trying to pull big crowds because he's embarrassed because he knows he's not pulling big crowds. So he decides to go someplace where he thinks he can get big crowds because that's what's most important to him. His own persona, the perspective people have of him. Oh, he's drawing a big crowd. That's what worked for him in 2020 and 2016. Ain't happening anymore. And this is in his fucking head. So he's got to find some way to fix that and start getting big crowds back to his shit. But nobody wants to see him. Nobody cares. Donald Trump is flailing right now, as I've said so many times. There is no strategy to what he's doing. He's not some guy playing 3D chess. He's a dumb fuck that's terrified and just doing anything and everything he can to keep his head above water. And it's not going to work. Trust me on that. All right, the next one says you're absolutely right. They are spreading as much bullshit lies because they know Diaper Donnie is not going to win. The bullshit is going to get deep, so we will need fly fishing waders to move through all of the shit. This election can not get here soon enough. Waiting to see those maggots cry like fucking snowflakes that that they are, that their cult leader got destroyed by a woman of color on top of it. Thanks, Scott. Well, Scott's a little fired up too. Scott's a little fired up too. And I think you're absolutely right. It's they're. I've said it before. As we get closer to the election, it's going to get crazier. Hard to imagine it could get crazier, but it's going to get crazier. The shit coming out of their mouths is going to be unbelievable. And guess what? None of it's going to help them. All of it is going to hurt them. So let the motherfuckers talk. All right. This one comes from Eddie. He says, Mike, I just saw this on the news. A man with guns arrested outside of Trump's rally in Coachella, California. I heard about that. I guess he had quite a lot of weaponry with him. Now, was he there to support Donald Trump or was he there to rid the world of Donald Trump? It's hard to say. I'm surprised they caught this guy. I have a feeling he is a Trump supporter because he got caught pretty easily. They're not the brightest crowd. So yeah, I did hear about it. I don't know what it means. I have to think that there are a lot of people that don't like Donald Trump, and they may be in the Republican Party because of what he's done to the Republican Party. I don't think he has a thing to worry about from Democrats because that's not how Democrats behave. But Republicans are a little fucking freaky. And I'm guessing, there's some political folks, some wealthy folks, and just some crazy folks that just don't like Donald Trump. And guess what? After November 5th, they'll like him even less. All right, moving on. Hi, Mike. It's Allison in Vegas. Ever notice I email you when I'm on the 5,000-foot ledge ready to jump? Talk me down, please. See, this is what I mean. People are nervous out there. We got to talk to these folks, keep them on board, keep them straight, and keep them fucking fighting. That's what we're going to do. All day on MSN, MSM, ABC, CBS, NBC, every show says that Trump and Harris are neck and neck at 48%. How is that possible given you how you urge us to use logic and zero emotion? Logic says to me that the Harris Walz campaign, by all accounts, should be 8 to 10 points ahead in most bullshit polls. Do Latinos and black males have that big a grip on the country? Are minority men really voting against their future? Because that doesn't seem logical either. And they love fascism that much. Are propaganda lies working on them? You speak of this all the time, and I'm listening. Where is this 48% tie a reality? This does not seem possible. Um, one item of note. The data at the bottom of the results shown below. Did I get that? I don't know if I grabbed that. Okay, yeah. Shown between 1,000 to 2,500 persons were polled, which means MSM is flat out lying to their viewers. And I'm not talking about Fox either. One of two things is true and the other a lie. The presidential election is tied 3 weeks out. The mainstream media is spreading lies regarding polling results. There is a third possible logical explanation. The polls are lying. If that's the case, because it seems to be the most logical conclusion, then exactly how much of the polls off? I don't participate in polls, so are there millions of others that ignore them too? Do folks answer them opposite of their true intentions? Geez, Harris has received $1 billion in donations. That says winner to me. Boomer, talk me off the ledge again. Thanks, Allison in Vegas. Now, see, there are people concerned about this stuff, and we got to talk about it, in spite of the fact that some people don't like it. Again, it's my motherfucking show. We'll do what I want to do. Um, the Rational Boomer podcast is not a democracy. Anyway, um, well, let's talk about the polls one more time and irritate some folks. I've been married for 41 years next month. I have two sons, full grown sons. I annoy and piss off people daily that are my relatives. So when it comes to people on the internet, you're not special. You're going to get annoyed and irritated from time to time with me too. And that's cool because I don't care. I'm here to just say what I believe, and people can uh, listen to it or they don't have to listen to it. It doesn't matter. I'm not doing this for followers. I'm lucky to have a lot of followers on TikTok and on the podcast, but I'm not going to change my way and try to comply with people just to please listeners. That's just not how we do it here. Anyway, let's talk about polls. I've said this a million times. I'll say it again. Who owns the polls? Now, we're hearing frequently that there are wealthy interests that own these polls. And would it be reasonable to suggest that these people that own the polls, who happen to be wealthy, maybe have a little bit of an agenda? Okay, so now who are they talking to? We hear 1,000 here, 2,000 there, but we don't know who they're talking to, and we don't know how they got to them. We also don't know the questions they asked. And we don't know how those questions were asked. Now, I've seen some things that come across my text messages, and they will ask very leading questions with the idea of getting the answer they want, as opposed to just a general act. The poll should be, are you voting for Kamala or are you voting for Donald Trump? It should be that simple, but it never is. Who do you think's stronger with this? And do you think Kamala's being strong enough for people of color or Latino people? They're very leading questions. They're intended to manipulate the numbers. And then when the numbers are gotten, how do they how do they manipulate the numbers? What do they do with those numbers before they release them? And then on top of that, you've got the media who wants to keep this whipped up, keep this title fight even so that they can have the biggest audience on November 5th. What do they do with it? I told you before what Arlene was suggesting, that they will make things sound worse for Kamala than they truly are based on the numbers. This is what they do. Here's the thing, Allison. These people are fucking with your head. They're manipulating you. There is no way Kamala is even close to Donald Trump's even close to Kamala. It's just not possible. Logic doesn't suggest it. And you're absolutely right. And you're saying exactly what I said. How can the polls be even if Kamala raised $1 billion in 80 days and Donald Trump maybe raised one third of that? And the fact of the matter is, over and above that, the vast majority of Kamala's money has come from small donors, which means more votes. At least half of Donald Trump's have come from big donors, which doesn't equate into a big number of votes. That that alone, don't even talk about overturning Roe v. Wade. Don't even talk about half the other shit that's going on. It makes no sense. There is no way Kamala is tied with Donald Trump. People want you to believe that, and it's just bullshit. It's just absolutely bullshit. Logic tells you otherwise. Even if you put emotion into it, if you just pay attention to the logic, it tells you it's pretty obvious. Now you want to believe polls. Well, I was talking to somebody yesterday and I said, why do you believe in the polls? Well, the media tells it. Yeah, but the polls were wrong in 2016, 2018, they were wrong in 2020, they were wrong in 2022. If they were wrong all those times, why do you take them as the gospel now? That's just fucking stupid. You don't, if somebody keeps telling you the wrong thing, do you keep going to them for advice? No, of course you don't. But the media plays it off like this is important, this is serious, this is real. Don't trust the media. The media has proven untrustworthy. The polls have been proven to be wrong. So if that's your argument as to why you're worried about Kamala being so tight in the race with Donald Trump, it's coming from a flawed place. You're getting bad information from bad fucking sources. So don't worry about that shit. Look at the facts, like $1 billion in 80 days. Tell me one presidential candidate, winning or losing presidential candidate, who has ever done that. Nobody. Nobody. Kamala Harris is probably the most popular presidential candidate we've ever seen in history, the most enthusiasm and momentum behind her. And Donald Trump has probably got the least amount of momentum, and it's showing up in the fundraising. Yeah, I don't believe that shit. It's bullshit. And I'm staking my reputation on this, because if it comes out on November 5th that it's a tight race and Donald Trump wins or just barely loses, I'm going to look like an idiot. But I'm cool with that. I've looked like an idiot most days. My wife points that out. And if that's what happens, that's what happens. I don't care. I'm not afraid of being wrong. But I'm going to tell you this. If it comes out the media has been fucking with us for 2 years and not been straight with us, I'm going to be talking loud and proud about those motherfuckers. I don't care. I hate the fact that they're doing this. And if I'm right about this, that is a big problem we have in this country. If we can't trust our media, what the fuck matter does it make of having the First Amendment and free press? If the press isn't going to give us the truth, we give them the right to tell us lies or manipulate us? That's bullshit. All right, Donald Trump was talking to Maria Bartiromo on Fox News. And apparently, Donald Trump thinks the military should handle his political opponents if there is unrest after the November election results come in. During an interview on Fox News Sunday morning, host Maria Bartiromo asked the former president about reports the government had thwarted a potential election related terror attack and if the public should be worried about a violent response from immigrants come November. Last week, the FBI arrested an Afghan man who was allegedly part of a plot to launch suicide attacks on large crowds on Election Day. Officials said the man had obtained AK-47 assault rifles, bought one-way plane tickets for his family to go to Afghanistan, and to liquidate their assets while attempting to carry out his plan. Rather than focus on real threats from foreign militants, Trump told Bartiromo that he was far more concerned with the left-wing Americans in regards to Election Day. What about the right wing? The left wing has never mounted any kind of attack on the Capitol or politics in general, but you motherfuckers have. I have to wonder if you would feel the same if the Republicans or the Trump-fucks came out and tried to attack the Capitol again. Clearly, he doesn't think that way because he wants to give the ones in jail for doing the same thing a fucking pardon. Donald Trump said, I think the bigger problem is the enemy within, not even the people who are destroying our country. I don't think they're the problem in terms of election day. The Republican presidential nominee said, I think the bigger problem are the people from within. What do you mean, Donnie? You're talking in fucking circles again. We have some very bad people. We have some sick people, radical left lunatics who have never done anything. Um, and it should be easily handled by, if necessary, by the National Guard, or if really necessary, by the military, he continued, because they can't let that happen. Well, Donnie, you let it fucking happen. You let your radical right motherfuckers attack the Capitol, injure and kill policemen, denigrate and desecrate the U.S. Capitol. You did it. Not only did you not send in the National Guard, you held them back, you dumb motherfucker. He also said that he doesn't foresee any political tumult coming from his own supporters on Election Day, telling Bartiromo, no, I don't think so, not from the side that votes for Trump. Um, I will agree with him there, mainly because they're cowards. Joe Biden will be the president. Kamala Harris will be the vice president at that point. There's going to be no attack on the Capitol this time because these fuckers know it's a different story. There's a different sheriff in town, and they're not going to stand around and let it watch. Joe Biden's not going to be sitting in the kitchen watching it on television, giggling to himself like Donald Trump did. He's going to be in action. The National Guard will be there. In fact, they should put the National Guard out around the Capitol prior to November or January 6th, just in case dumb fucks decide to come out. And then what's going to happen to them, they ain't going to like, because Joe Biden and the Democrats take very seriously something like that happening again. And there's going to be a much more serious, much more intense attack on anybody that tries to pull that shit. And frankly, if there were Democrats doing it, and there isn't, and there won't be, but even if there were, Joe Biden would behave the same way. It's not about party when people are attacking our government. It's about our government and the country as a whole. Now, Trump warned about a left-wing backlash toward election results. It is his own supporters who have a history of causing post-election chaos, as we know. So, well, nothing's nothing's going to happen. You know what there's going to happen? Going to be a lot of fucking crying, a lot of accusations about, oh, we were cheated, we didn't win, but you got your ass kicked substantially. Dare I say a landslide? And if it's a landslide, what are you going to say now? You're not going to say shit, is what's going to happen. You're not going to say shit. All right. Donald Trump, his cognitive ability should be in question. It's not as in question as it was with Joe Biden, and he's far worse than Joe Biden ever was. Trump made numerous verbal slips at his rally on Sunday, causing observers to suggest he was slurring words and even that he has dementia. Oh, you think? Trump spoke in Arizona, where Fox News cut away from the former president's speech as he was accusing the media of being corrupt. He told Detroit that your town is shitty. He told Milwaukee that it's a horrible city. And now he goes on to the media and tells them they're corrupt. Trump also messed up his words at several points, leading to extended online mockery. Yeah, he's getting railed online. At one point in his presentation, Trump was talking about allegations that he is getting old. He pivoted to Joe Biden, saying the current president is cognitively, what did he say here? Repaired. Cognitively repaired. Now, what he meant to say was impaired, but that's Donald Trump, who is a stable fucking genius. In another instance of misspeaking at the same rally, Trump called the country a company and then immediately corrected it. Now, if Joe Biden had done these things, they would have been all over his shit. Now, popular liberal influencer Spiro's Ghost seized on that moment, writing, "Two cheers for dementia." Trump also said something that baffled social media users who couldn't figure out what word Trump was attempting to say. He said, "We have Aseurations in our room." It's the way they spell it is Aseurasians. Don't know what the fuck he means there. We have some incredible people in our room. We have so many that we just can't, but we have some people, the ex-president said. It's possible he was trying to say Arizonians or Arizonans, referring to the people of the state. That makes sense. That's probably what he was trying to say. Now, veteran and political commentator Allison Gill, better known as Mueller, she wrote, responded to the remark by saying, he's clinically insane. And I don't think she's being hyperbolic with that. I think she's serious. And yet another example of verbal slipping, Trump said that includes you guys, okay? That includes Zen, Sen. Does that include us? Yeah, you're top of the list. Trump also claimed to be the smartest person in all of history. He began to say what appeared to be Albert Einstein, but when somebody purportedly said Trump in the audience, the former president said he agrees with that. Before Trump finished saying Einstein's name, he was on track to mispronounce it, leading Republican accountability group America Bridge 21st Century to post the following. You know who the smartest person they say in history was? Albert Einstein. It looks like Albert Einstein shit is what it looks like. My God. Donald Trump is an embarrassment to himself, and he doesn't even fucking realize it. He just keeps talking in hopes that he can pull himself out of the fucking fire, and he never does. All right, we're going to wrap things up here in a minute or so. Vice President Kamala Harris on Sunday taunted Donald Trump for failure to release his medical records. That's what I like about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. They keep jabbing Donald Trump, and that's really the best thing you can do to a narcissist. They hate to be embarrassed. They hate to be made look like a fool. And it's not hard with Donald Trump, but Kamala, of course, came out with her medical information, and Donald Trump said, "No, I'm not going to do it." Maybe you should, motherfucker. For a guy who looks as bad as you do and shits his pants with some regularity, you might have a problem or two. Harris, as I said, already released her own medical records in accordance with the tradition with nearly all presidential candidates in the U.S., spoke at a rally in North Carolina, a place that Donald Trump said she never goes. Well, she was in North Carolina. At the event, she questioned why the former president's team wouldn't simply make his health records public. He refuses to release his medical records. He's unwilling to do a 60 Minutes interview. He's unwilling to meet for a second debate, Harris said. Why does his staff want to hide him away? Are they afraid the people will see he is too weak and unstable to lead America? Yeah, I think that's it, Kamala. I think that's exactly it. They are afraid to expose what Donald Trump is. He won't do a debate. He won't release his medical information because this time they won't allow him to have it done by that fake doctor, Ronnie Jackson. I think Ronnie Jackson got the doctor's degree, but I think he got kicked out of medicine because he's a fucking fruitcake. He's an absolute fucking idiot. So, yeah, Donald Trump is not good when it comes to exposing things. He doesn't want you to see his records from school. He doesn't want you to see his taxes. He doesn't want you to see his medical record. He doesn't want to do another debate after getting his ass kicked by Kamala Harris. He's hiding a lot of shit, isn't he? The only reason you hide shit is because it's bad. He wasn't a smart student. He's not medically fit. He's not mentally fit. And he's terrified. He's trying to cover everything he can. He's trying to game the system as best he can. And it's just not going to work. In spite of what the polls, in spite of what the media says, Donald Trump is a sinking ship. Motherfucker's done. He couldn't be in a worse situation going into this election. Polls be damned. He's not doing well. And it's going to get worse between now and November 5th. I just want to warn you of that. It's going to get worse. And I want you to stay calm. Just keep pushing, doing what we're doing, and things will work out for the best. I promise you that. I'm convinced of that. And I always say, well, if I'm wrong, that's fine too. I'll be wrong and you can call me out for it. But I know I'm not wrong. It makes no sense that Donald Trump has any fucking chance at all. All right. We are going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.